We are Rogue Media Sports.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching. It's the Cam Show on the Rogue Media Sports Network here in the Colt Brennan Memorial Studio. Happy Tuesday to you. Boy, do we have a full show planned for you where it's mostly me talking mixed in with a little bit of me talking about potentially awkward encounters with my neighbors, featuring me talking about some other bullshit, really. Where I thought about it this morning, Scotty Swingler, producing us here today. Has he been producing like it's his job. It is. Anyway, so I'm in this apartment complex, and it feels like the buildings are a little too close together. And by that I mean what happened this morning. So I really like having the windows open, the blinds open. You know, I like the ambient light coming in. I like the natural light. I don't like the overhead light in my living room. I hate it, in fact. So I keep the windows open like as much as possible. And across the way, there's a neighbor that's probably just a bit too close. Like, as in, if I wanted to, I could see into their apartment, which makes me uncomfortable. And I can't imagine what it makes them feel, you know? And this morning, I was doing my morning routine. I got out of the shower. I was about to make my protein shake for breakfast. No big deal. That's where I get all my nutrients. And I'm wearing a bathrobe. And I go to open the window, like open the blinds. Excuse me. I go to open the blinds. And my neighbor across the way, a young lady, is also opening her blinds at the same time and is like getting her cat off the windowsill.
No
and I'm
way.
like, shit. Because there's no way for me to yell out the window, I promise this was purely coincidence. I'm really just trying to open my blinds with my bathrobe on. Like, doesn't that get you pissed off? Like, that gets me pissed off, man.
It hurts me for you because I likewise do not like overhead lights.
I hate them.
And I prefer daylight, sunlight, natural light. We've got the blinds open up here today. And
looks great, by the way.
And yeah, it's like 10 seconds either direction and you're probably safe.
But alas, I was not. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a little too close because I think they probably like having their blinds open too. Again, I'm really trying not to check on it, keeping tabs, but it seems like their blinds are open a lot too. And if it were like 10 feet back for each of us, you know, like we wouldn't.
You'd feel like you had your personal
space.
If
we had that encounter, I don't think I would have even saw them.
Right.
You know? And it's just, yeah, it's just tough. It's tough because I like having that ambient light. But what are you going to do? It's just this constant struggle of, does this person think I'm like a rear window creep here? And I wonder if they're thinking the same thing. It's happened like 2 or 3 times. Not a lot. Over, I don't know. I've lived there for 6 months.
Wait, so when you told the story initially, I assumed this was the first time this has happened.
No, this was the most awkward for sure.
Okay.
But there have been times where we've like both been at the window kind of thing.
Got it. So it's just opening
or like I'm at the window and they're like at their door and their little walkway to the door I can see as well. You know? Yeah. Or like I'm on the phone. When I'm on the phone, I'll be like wandering around, kind of like pacing.
Right.
And so I'll also like be by the window and they'll be like, what is this person doing? if they're looking, right? Yeah. So yeah, a couple, less than a handful.
I have a question.
These kind of
as I'm trying to put this story together.
But please,
did y'all make eye contact?
I don't think so.
Well, that's good.
I don't think so.
That would have ratcheted up the awkwardness, I imagine.
I mean, we could have. See, that's the thing where, like, both our heads were up, but I can't really tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it was 10 feet back, I wouldn't even know.
Right.
So,
God.
Like, you know what I mean? But there's nothing to be like, hey, sorry, that was just us at the window at the same time. I promise. You know, what am I going to do? Go knock on their door and tell them that?
Leave a note.
I promise I don't give a shit what you guys are doing. Whoa. But anyway, I get creeped out by that from like as a secondhand embarrassment thing. Not even so much that like, hey, Cam, they could also be looking through your window. You know? But it's more like I hope they don't think I'm weird. So I end up drawing the blinds more than I usually do. Jerry should take some notes. Jerry Jones is never drawing the blinds. Is that opening them or closing them?
Drawing is closing them, right?
That's what I thought.
I think that's
someone
correct.
will correct us.
We ripped on the Cowboys enough yesterday, though. I need to move on.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, it's at this point, it's like, dunking on a 4-foot hoop. What are you gonna do? I do want to talk about the Patriots, a team with the same amount of wins this year as the Cowboys. Okay, last one. The hoop's going back up to 10 feet. I'm not gonna do it anymore. Patriots at 3-7. Get the win over Chicago. And we talked a lot about Drake May yesterday, mainly the Drake May Caleb Williams matchup. And the fact that the Bears are just repeating the cycle with their quarterback. I feel bad for him. He's been coddled his whole career more than most quarterbacks, but I feel for these guys who go to these organizations that just cannot figure it out. Felt this way about Sam Darnold, the golden boy out of USC. But then he goes to the Jets, and what is he going to do? Like, genuinely, is he just going to break the 40, 50 years of what the Jets have built? It's the same thing with the Bears. The Bears, I mean, everyone knows, miraculously, the Bears do not have an all-time quarterback in their illustrious history. Their 100 years of playing football, they don't have an all-time great quarterback. The best quarterback they've ever had statistically is Jay Cutler. And the most memorable in terms of bringing them a Super Bowl is Jim McMahon. Fine quarterback. Jay Cutler, fine quarterback. But we're talking about 100 years of football, and they have not gotten even a Hall of Famer. I mean, you got to go way back pre-Super Bowl to get them even close to that. Anyway, so Caleb Williams falls into that. We talked about that. We talked about the Drake May, Josh Allen comp, which I like. But one thing we didn't mention was what was talked about with Drake in the game on Sunday, and that came from a Laura Oakman sideline report. You know Laura Oakman, Scotty? I don't either. Apparently she's very long tenured at Fox. I didn't know. Pete would be flipping out right now because Pete's read Laura Oakman's autobiography, I'm sure. Anyone who has appeared on TV for sports, Pete has read their book. Loves reading their book. Anyway, Laura Oakman had a report during the game on Sunday, which I listened to live, and somehow there's no audio recordings whatsoever of this report, or else it would be in the queue in StreamYard. But apparently, audio of this does not exist. But I did hear it, so I can confirm that it was reported, and we do have the transcript of it. So this is from a CBS News story, but it's all coming from the Patriots Bears broadcast. During Sunday's broadcast, Laura Oakman of Fox Sports shared that May asked offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt if he could address the team following Wednesday's practice. May did not like the focus of the group during the session and wanted to discuss it with his teammates. She said 3 weeks ago, or she said, this week was a big step up for Drake. He was frustrated with how practice went. He didn't think they were as locked in as they needed to be. So he asked Alex Van Pelt if he could address the offense for the first time. The first time. Alex said, the floor is yours. He said it was the first time he got in front of the offense, as we just stated. Alex said, great response. Everyone reacted really well to it. And some of the players said that after the game as well, that they liked what the message was. One Patriots player called it 10 out of 10 for the message that Drake May gave. Could this be some, Patriot way, we want to get behind this guy kind of bullshit? Potentially. But what struck me is I thought back and I said, I don't think we ever had a report like this from Mac Jones, who was a guy who was really hyped up in terms of the intangible stuff coming out of the draft, right? He's a leader. This guy will fit in with the Patriots. Saban loved him, so Belichick will love him. And he's a pro's pro. He only cares about winning. He's not going to make any waves in the media or anything like that. And he came in and he took over the huddle. He took command of that offense, command of this team. And yet we never got a story like this. We never had a story of Mac Jones getting in front of the team, essentially, from what we can gather from this, dressing down his players and saying, hey, guys, this wasn't good enough today. We've got to get better at this. You've got to get better at this. And you've got to get better at this. And I need to get better at this. There's no story about that from Mac Jones's time in his 3 years, essentially 3 years, as the starter with the Patriots. And yet Drake Maye, we're getting it 4 or 5 weeks into his career starting. That's a positive sign, because not only do you get that, but you also are seeing the on-field results that Mac Jones never had in terms of the throws he can make, right? Because Mac went to the playoffs his rookie year, lest we forget. But it's pretty obvious that Drake Maye has an arsenal that Mac Jones never had. And he does not have even the weapons that Mac Jones had. And yet he can do more than Mac Jones ever could. And that is what's so promising to me, because here's a guy, to use a Chris Collinsworth quote, here's a guy. No, but seriously, here's a guy in Drake Maye, comes out of the draft. He's pretty young, right? 21, pretty goofy, didn't start a ton of games in college. I don't want to say questions about his maturity, but there's kind of that Gronk aspect of this guy, cares a lot about football, pretty smart in the game of football, but he's really goofy. How are guys going to rally around him? Are they going to do it right away, especially when things aren't going well? And the answer seems to be yes. And here he is in the middle of this week going up and addressing the offense. And you might say, well, it's the NFL. This stuff happens all the time. But this is a guy who's in year one, a 21-year-old who's talking to a lot of embattled veterans, 28, 29, 30-year-olds, grown men. Okay? As good as Drake Maye has been at quarterback throughout his life, this is a different animal. Even if you're starting as a freshman in high school, 14-year-old, 15-year-old talking to 17, 18-year-olds, there's some maturity difference there for sure. Or in college, a 19-year-old versus a 22-year-old. But we are talking about a guy who was at frat parties a couple months ago, talking to a bunch of guys who have played, some of them 7, 8, 9, 10 years in the National Football League. He's sitting there talking to guys who are 28, 29, 30. Some of them played a decade in this league. That's a massive difference. I don't know if Drake Maye went to frat parties, but he could have. Okay. He seems like a fun guy. I'm not going to criticize the kid for that. But it's all to say that takes a lot of balls to do. 4 or 5 weeks into your starting career. And talk about a response, because it wasn't the best offensive performance they've ever had, but they went out and they beat a team in their own barn by 2 touchdowns. And it didn't feel that close. 19-3. Held them to 1-14 on third down. And holds Caleb Williams to 16-30 for 120 yards and sacks him 9 times. And so what does Drake Maye do when he goes to the podium? He goes, everyone phones down. Let's clap it up for the defense. That's kind of a nice thing to do. Now, you should tell Drake that it's probably not very professional for the organized media in the room to drop what they're doing and clap up the team that they're objectively covering. But the thought was there. And is he a little bit goofy? Sure. But he doesn't embarrass himself or the team in the media. And he clearly really only gives a shit about football. And that's what I'm here for. The man has got football in his head and maybe nothing else. And that's all I care about. I'm okay with that guy being the franchise quarterback. I don't need him to be terribly thoughtful. I don't need him to be quite as boring as Mac Jones was. And I wasn't complaining about that either, but I don't need that. I can take a guy who's a little bit goofy, but who cares about ball and gives me that clip from Hard Knocks where he's dissecting the play before it's even happening and how impressed Brian Daboll was. But they asked Drake May, because I forgot we had this clip. That's why I'm only introducing it now, Scotty, to just let you in on that. They asked Drake what he said to the team in midweek, and here's what Drake allegedly said.
Little things. I think just taking, that next step is me being the quarterback and, in the offensive meeting room of, these little things that are adding up and hurting us in practice that are leading to game day. I think I fumbled a snap. I think we didn't pick up, protection that we've been, trying to pick up. I think, may have had some little, mental errors that I think, I really started with myself. And I think sometimes you get in the practice mode where you're just running plays and not really tuned in and trying to execute, specific plays. You're trying to just get in a groove of, hey, we're just running plays out here just for nothing. And just really try to, challenge those guys and challenge myself to take each play and, know that, when the game comes and this play is called, it matters. Probably fumbled some words trying to do it, but I think those guys respected it.
Probably fumbled some words trying to do it, but I think those guys respect it. That's big time. That's big time. And Mac Jones might well have had some addressing the team moments like that, because it doesn't sound like it was anything crazy, right? It was a lot of sports minutia in there, right? One play at a time. We got to stay focused, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of that. So I don't doubt that Mac Jones could have done that at some point, but what we did see from Drake May in this game is something we didn't really see with Mac Jones, even with the success that he had in his rookie year, is that clearly the team rallied around it. We saw it on the field. Like, we saw a team play out of its mind after a pretty bad loss last week, especially a defense playing out of its mind and getting those 9 sacks. Like, what you saw was a team actually rallying around the quarterback. And we've seen it in spurts this year, the way they came back against Tennessee. The way, honestly, they rallied around Jacoby Brissett a little bit in that Jets win. But they have clearly shown on the field that they are respecting this guy and that they're willing to go to war with this guy. And that wasn't the case for everyone going into the draft. Everyone talked about Caleb Williams, how great he was going to be, and the athleticism of Jaden Daniels, which we, of course, have seen on full display. And then there was Drake May at pick number 3. And there was a guy I really respect as an NFL analyst who just forewarned about some potential dangers about drafting Drake May.
Drake May will get you fired. Drake May's the kind of player that gets you fired. And especially you draft him in the top 5, top 3, he's going to get you fired.
I like Merrill Hodge a lot. And he's been right about some big-time quarterback prospects over the years. It's worth noting that many people were, obviously Caleb Williams was the number 1 pick. But Merrill Hodge actually said, I don't know about Caleb Williams. There's something not right here. And he's usually right about those things. And he certainly looks right about Caleb Williams. He's gotten plenty of things wrong in the past, and the Drake May one so far, not so good. Drake May will get you fired. Gerard Mayo, if he gets fired, it will be because of Gerard Mayo. It will not be because of Drake May. Trust me. Trust me. It's just so much different from what we were hearing about this kid even 2 months ago. Not that he was detrimental to the team or anything, but he was such a project and might never actually become that guy. Because for every one of those Josh Allens, there are 3 or 4 Zach Wilsons. And I think a lot of people were afraid that the Patriots might be set back a decade if he is Zach Wilson and not Josh Allen. And he's not either one of those yet, okay? Don't get me wrong. But certainly he is trending more towards the Josh Allen than the Zach Wilson. Like, Zach Wilson was 5 weeks into his career, there were already major questions. And they're already like, what's up with this kid? And with Drake May, he's getting better by the week. His decision-making is getting better by the week. His ball talent's incredible. Arm talent's incredible. And I think even Patriots fans are surprised by his escapability and his ability to get out of the pocket. You knew he could do that in college, but it's the ACC. It's not the NFL. And he has been doing that as plays have broken down. And he is making great plays, improvising great plays, I should say. There was one with under 5 minutes left. Patriots are up 16-3. They're putting the game away. Okay, they're shortening the game here. It's a 3rd and 1. The Bears absolutely have to have this. And they collapse the pocket. Drake May's basically on one of his offensive linemen, jumps and flips it out. Austin Hooper, wide open, 4 yards, first down. Doesn't go for the kill, isn't trying to force it to the goal line to show off his big arm and try to get the big home run play. He waits till like literally the last second for something to be open, and he gets the first down that essentially kills off the rest of the game. They kick a field goal, and at that point, the game is over. It's those kinds of things that I did not expect from Drake Maye this early in his career, because he does have the big arm. He does have the arm talent. He did hit a lot of home runs in college. That's what he was known for. That's how he got on the top of all these draft boards. And he's willing to say, I'll take what the defense gives me. He has the great processing and reading of the defense that Mac Jones did have, and the willingness to take what the defense gives him that Mac Jones had, but with much better arm talent and much better, obviously, escapability. So to me, that puts him more towards that Josh Allen comp than a Mac Jones, than a Zach Wilson, than a Jarrett Stidham. Name your guy. He's trending more towards those great quarterbacks, but it's very, very early. Very early. But again, that's what kind of struck me, was this meeting with the team, addressing the team, addressing guys who have played years and years in this league, and he's only started a couple of games, to say, hey, you know what, guys, this wasn't good enough. I wasn't, but really, you did this wrong, and we've all got to focus up, and we can be better than this. We can be better than what we showed against Tennessee. And he showed that against Chicago. So that, to me, was a big takeaway from this weekend, because Mac Jones never had that. And Drake Maye is already doing it. Impressive. This is if you're looking for a place that's going to come and say how bad Drake Maye is and point out all his mistakes, you're coming to the wrong place. Call it like I see it. And I have loved the Drake Maye experience. Loved it. I am already sending off my red Mac Jones jersey to get the nameplate replaced. It's one of those Vapor Elite ones. It's got the cuff sleeves. I love it, dude. It's so great. It does accentuate my small muscles, but it looks cool as hell. And I got a Mac Jones one on a great deal before last season, and would have gotten an even better deal after last season. So now I'm putting Maye's name on the back. Sue me. Anyway, we're talking Red Sox, if you can believe it, next, because they might be back if they pull this thing off. That's next on the Cam Show.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference, because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Welcome to a special edition of the Doomsday Podcast. Look at this. We got one of the great golfers in the world, certainly one of the great pass rushers in NFL history, but he also had a vision for you. And so it was like you had the best of both worlds, right? You had somebody on you early, and then you had somebody who was maybe more relaxed. What were a couple of your biggest takeaways?
The first thing you referred to that I've spoken to some personnel people and general managers of the league to get some, independent, objective assessments of the players the Cowboys picked, and we'll go through that.
Has the general manager changed at all in the draft for you?
Nope, it's been the same since I was here the last time.
We are so back. The Red Sox potentially back. This offseason is truly like make or break. They can absolutely get the juice back into this thing this offseason if they write the goddamn checks. And that is the major question. There's already been proposed some ballsy moves to get a starting pitcher or two in here. This is a decent enough free agent class. There's a couple of big fish in this pond that the Red Sox can be players for. And it's already begun. Right? We've talked to Logan Gilbert, Garrett Crochet in the trade market. And now the talks of Sasaki, Teoscar Hernandez, and Juan Soto. Yes, that Juan Soto. Jeff Passan reporting that Juan Soto is going to meet with the Red Sox this week. Meeting with Toronto first. Toronto made a big push in the Ohtani deal, by the way. Obviously did not get him, but they made a push there. So he's going to meet with Toronto first, and then he's going to meet with the Red Sox in Southern California this week. The other players seem to be, of course, the Yankees, the Mets, and two other mystery teams. Boy, Juan, do you want $600 million from the New York Yankees, or would you like the mystery team? I think that would be a really funny way to go about it. If like the Pirates were just interested, but not telling Soto what team it was. They were just like, hey, here's the contract offer. You don't know what team it is. It's actually the Minnesota Twins. All right, fine. Do it. But apparently the Red Sox are legit in this pursuit of Juan Soto. Where have we heard this before? These are the interest kings we're talking about. They've been interested in every free agent that's gone on the market the last couple of years. The Teoscar Hernandez interest also is, pretty not surprising, unsurprising. They were interested in him last year. And it felt like for a minute there that they were the front runners to get Teoscar Hernandez. They don't. And it screws them over. To be frank, they needed a right-handed power hitter for most of the year. Tyler O'Neill, I thought, did a good job, but doesn't hit with guys on base. And Teoscar Hernandez could have been that mashing right-handed hitter to bring in the same way you did with JD Martinez in 2018. Could have been a very similar scenario. Instead, he hits 35 homers for the Dodgers, and they win the World Series. And he's on the market again. So that would make sense. But the Juan Soto deal, if somehow the Red Sox can pull off a Juan Soto signing, that is franchise altering, potentially. If the Red Sox go out and actually land Juan Soto, that changes the game again in the AL East. Like, that is the only thing right now I think that could get that Red Sox interest anywhere close to what it was 20 years ago. Anywhere close to that Red Sox-Yankee rivalry that we knew and loved. Because it's not that way anymore, obviously. 2021, you had a little peek into it. 2018, they played in the division series. There was some hatred there, but the Red Sox were comfortably better. The Red Sox, even on a 100-win Yankee team, the Red Sox were better. And the Red Sox embarrassed them in 2021. So you had a little bit there, but there weren't the villains that we used to have, right? The Jeters, the A-Rods, the Ortizes, the Pedros. We didn't have that. And we still don't. As much as we want to hate Aaron Judge, it's like, why? Or maybe the Giancarlo Stanton thing would have brought it back for a little bit because the Red Sox were pushing for Stanton, and then he went to the Yankees in that trade, and there was that Derek Jeter aspect of it. But that didn't really pan out either. It was not the hatred the same way it was with A-Rod or Johnny Damon. A-Rod was supposed to be a Red Sox, and then he becomes a Yankee. Johnny Damon was a Red Sox and became a Yankee. Like those had some hatred there. But now you put in a Juan Soto who, had a great season with the Yankees this year after a trade that they went out and got him, assuming that he would re-sign, and he helps them go to the World Series. And then if he signs with the Red Sox, oh boy, hang on to your hats, because that would get the pot boiling in this rivalry again. Is it ever going to reach 03, 04? Probably not. Probably not. That would take a whole lot of shit. And it would probably need the Red Sox going a couple of decades without winning a World Series in order for that to get back. But if you want to get the pot boiling on this thing again, this could be what would do it. Juan Soto coming to the Red Sox, because it would take obviously somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 or $600 million over a span of a decade and a half. That's kind of the numbers we're seeing now. 14 years, $650 million. That is like being able to buy half a baseball team kind of wealth that this guy is about to walk into. And I'm seeing this trend recently on Twitter, but I want to debunk it. He would be worth it. Okay? Because people are asking, like, should he be even close to Ohtani money? He should. Ohtani is the better player. Ohtani is probably the best player in baseball, right? But Juan Soto is right up there as one of the best hitters in all of baseball. And, oh, by the way, he's 26 years old, right? Like, he's going to be in his age 26 season this year. He has not even entered his prime yet. And the numbers have him up there with Hall of Famers. And he's only 26. In fact, this was a really good note. For his career, Soto has slashed 285, 421, and 532 while averaging 35 homers and 102 RBI over 162 games. He's already won a World Series with the Nationals in 2019. And this year in the postseason, he hit 327 with 4 homers, 9 RBI, and 12 runs scored. But to put it in a historical context, this was the note. Soto is in historic company as he enters his prime. As Passan noted, Soto is 8th all-time in OPS plus among players with 3,000 or more plate appearances through their age 25 season. His OPS plus of 160 trails only Ty Cobb, Mickey Mantle, Mike Trout, Jimmy Fox, Albert Pujols, Tris Speaker, and Rogers Hornsby. You might have heard of them. That is a murderer's row of some of the best hitters in the history of baseball. Juan Soto is putting his name in that discussion. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. But the only main concern I have for the Red Sox, and it's a small concern, is that it doesn't really fill any of the holes that the Red Sox had in this year's team. Anyone would like to add a Juan Soto, and that production is that production. But if you're getting bogged down into the roster and plugging holes, this doesn't necessarily do that. The thing that I think it would help out with, obviously, is making up for the power and production you're not getting from Masataka Yoshida, and then some, right? You were hoping Yoshida could be a 20 to 25 home run guy, and he's not become that, and he's not been healthy, and you could replace him with a guy who's actually a little bit better defensively for Soto, who's not a great outfielder, but better than Yoshida, who is DHing most of this year. And, oh, by the way, he'll probably give you 35 to 40 home runs instead and knock in 120 RBI instead of trying to get Yoshida to the 100 mark. So in that case, yeah, it's a big-time upgrade. Don't get me wrong. But where the Red Sox really lacked this year was starting pitching and right-handed power. And I'm wondering if you go out and make the big splash and get Juan Soto, is that going to hinder you from filling those holes? Because those are more pressing on this team. And if the Red Sox are really going to do the all-in spending thing, there is a world where they can do all three, where they can just throw everything they can at Juan Soto, still give a pretty nice and cozy 4-year deal to Teoscar Hernandez, fill that right-handed power gap, and make a trade for one of these starting pitchers, be it Gilbert, be it Garrett Crochet. And that probably gets you out of the Corbin Burnes, Blake Snell free agency race. Just probably fine. As much as I would like either one of those guys, if you're going out and getting Soto and Hernandez, I will take getting one of the young starting pitchers under team control for a couple more years at the risk of losing some prospects, which could happen. But I wonder if you go out and get a guy like Soto, does that change the pieces that you're willing to move on from? And by that, I mean, if you go out and get Juan Soto, could you throw in Wilyer Abreu in a trade? A guy whom I like and don't necessarily want them to give up, but you can, get rid of a guy like that or a Tristan Casas much more readily when you have a Juan Soto rather than the alternative of, am I going to need to dip into the prospect pool here? Am I going to need to throw in a guy like Meyer or Kyle Teal or Roman Anthony, the number one prospect in baseball, to go and get one of these pitchers? If you get Soto and that's making up for a ton of your production that you didn't get necessarily last year, now you're thinking, okay, I can trade by young major league ready guys, be it Casas, be it Wilyer Abreu, Masa Yoshida. If he wants to go, throw his contract in there, go right ahead. But those kinds of things can be solved with a Juan Soto signing. A lot of things can be solved with a Juan Soto signing. Is it that apparently it's the Red Sox top priority? That's what all these reports are saying. Priority number one is to go out and get Juan Soto. Does it fill all your holes? No. But it's tough for me to sit here and think of negative things about getting a guy like Juan Soto, one of the top 5 or 10 hitters, at worst top 10 hitter in all of baseball, and mashed with the Yankees this year, mashed in this division, and mashed pretty well on the road. It wasn't just a short porch Yankee Stadium thing. I mean, this guy was a pro's pro. And as you saw with the Yankees pitching and their defense and the bottom third of their lineup, it was Judge and Soto that got them there, with a mix of some Giancarlo Stanton in the postseason. Those guys at 3 and 4, 4 and 5 in the lineup carried the Yankees to the World Series. I'll take a guy like that. I'll take Teoscar Hernandez too. Give me 40 homers at Fenway Park with Teoscar Hernandez. And if you can avoid, Roman Anthony, Kyle Teal, Marcelo Meyer being thrown into a deal for a starting pitcher like Crochet or Logan Gilbert, which seems unlikely, but if you can figure that out, Craig Breslow for president. If you can get all 3 of those guys to your roster next year. But I'm telling you, what Juan Soto does is more than just next year's team, next year's roster. It ignites a rivalry again, makes people take the Red Sox seriously again, and could potentially get them to contending mode again by adding a top 5 or 10 player in the game in Juan Soto. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. This might need to be this kind of Curt Schilling thing. Craig Breslow, I hope you don't have Thanksgiving plans. That might be where you seal the deal, just the way Theo did with Curt Schilling in Arizona 20 years ago. I will believe it when I see it, but I will be on pins and needles. This is what baseball needs. It's what the Red Sox need. It's what baseball needs. They need a legitimate hot stove, and they need it in November. I don't know if that'll be the case. I wouldn't be surprised if Soto drags this thing out to January, February, the way all these deals are now, unfortunately. But this would be great for baseball if there's an awesome sweepstakes and Soto goes somewhere that's not the Yankees in November or December. And it would be perfect for baseball if he goes to the Red Sox. That's all I got to say. The Bruins, oh dear. Oh, dear, the Bruins. I guess we'll have to talk about them. That's next.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down to afterwards, was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
It is Matt Mosley, and it's the Obstructed View podcast, Rogue Media Network. I think they're learning that there's really no wonderful view of me. See, I feel like they think this feed's going to be really wonderful.
There must have been no BS, like 20 scouts, 15 to 20 NBA scouts there to see him, and he was top 5.
When your old number wasn't working, I went through various channels to track you down. So unfortunately, you can never get away from me. But I'm happy. Man. I'm happy to have you today.
No, thanks for having me. And you know we always family, no matter where I'm at.
I mean, yeah, a new coach comes in, they're going to turn the roster. I think that's just we've got all these transfer portal stats and what Dion did and what Fritz has done. I mean, that's the deal, man. That's the game that's being played nowadays.
Maybe a little bit unknown at quarterback. I mean, unknown to the rest of the world, but you know, he dove into the portal and got a guy who is super, super athletic.
South Dakota State's really good. Give us a little bit of breakdown about what they can do and what Oklahoma State needs to be worried about.
But look at that form right there. I need to say nothing else about this because I found one.
It is the Cam Show. It's Rogue Media Sports Network. It's Tuesday. The Bruins play again tonight. We do have the NBA Cup tonight. Boy, does that get me fired up. Celtics are playing Atlanta with that new court. How do you feel, Scott? How do you feel about these NBA Cup courts? The second year of it.
I'll be honest with you, Cam. I've not been paying attention to this. Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
It was the in-season tournament last year.
I remember
it's now
that.
called the NBA Cup.
Okay.
And each team has like not only their whatever city edition jerseys for it, but they redesign the courts, like the physical court. And
just graphics wise or like
the whole thing.
Okay.
Whole thing. So the Celtics will play on a green court tonight with the big NBA Cup trophy in the middle. And this year at least they made some like faux parquet, which I appreciate. But like this is I do get some, like I get old man yelling at cloud a little bit on some things, and I'm not gonna lose sleep at the end of the day. But it's just like why do we need that?
Nope.
You know.
Well, I remember when they announced this
why
tournament.
Why do the Celtics need to be playing on a green?
Well,
court?
Nobody cares about the NBA Cup to begin with.
No.
And A and B. I don't know. I guess I could see the value in trying that to potentially, you know, if you want to change the way courts look 10 years from now, you can get weird with it now.
It's just, I don't know.
It sounds like it's going to hurt my eyes.
Well, the thing is, with the whole NBA Cup deal, so I'm a big soccer fan. You're a big soccer fan, but you stick mostly MLS, right?
Primarily, yeah.
Yeah.
And international, Team USA.
Gotcha.
All about it.
Gotcha. I stick in Europe for the most part. Really, these days, the Premier League, not much else. Premier League, Champions League, obviously. And the idea of this NBA Cup was supposed to be like the FA Cup in the Premier League, or the League Cup as well, they do in England, which is these mid-season tournaments that are going on. Like you're playing a Premier League game at the weekend, the top flight, and you're playing a FA Cup match on assorted Tuesdays or Wednesdays.
Well, and the MLS does this too.
They have the Davis Cup?
No,
that's tennis or something.
Dude, I'm the worst. I'm forgetting what it's called right now, but it's they do one with Liga Meki where it's like 8 teams from MLS and 8 teams from Mexico.
Oh,
that play
okay.
for a cup every year.
So you get the idea of it.
Yeah.
And
I think it's just, and then I think there's one that's just called MLS Cup. That's
okay.
Mid-season
MLS
like that
Cup.
too.
That was good.
Very
That was
creative.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, the NBA went with in-season tournament last year. So, but like, it's just it. And what's funny about it too is you can't fabricate the history of something like the FA Cup. Like the FA Cup has been around since the 1870s or 80s. Like, so first off, right there, you can't replicate that. That's 140 years they've been playing this thing. And it for a long time was bigger than even winning the league. And so there's nothing you can do about that, right? Nothing the NBA can do about that. And the part that is funny to me is the fact that the FA Cup and the League Cup in England are losing luster by the year because people are so invested in who's winning the Premier League and who's winning the Champions League.
Right.
And the NBA is like, you know what? We should do something like that. It's like the popularity is as low as it's ever been.
Well, and
let's do that.
Isn't the reward just like cash
for the NBA? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I feel like
you're playing an extra game or two.
I feel like if it, you could add stakes to that, whether it's, man, you want to secure a playoff spot in December.
I think that would be kind of a cool thing.
I think that would draw more views than we named it this, we changed the court, and we'll give the winners cash.
I think what could be great for it is something like home court advantage in the first round.
Right.
So where like the Lakers
implications
last year,
on the real
playoff.
playoff.
Like the Lakers last year were not a home court team.
Right.
And they could have been because they won that tournament. Or the other one, which I am in on, is
better draft lottery.
A draft pick.
I think that's a good move.
A top like 6 or 8 draft pick. Because I have long been on the trail of we're not handling the draft lottery the right way. I think the teams that finish the worst, like the 2 worst records, should be picking like 7th and 8th. So where you're still getting a top 10 pick, but we're not rewarding tanking. And every once in a while, there's going to be the team that's not even trying to tank. They're just that bad, but so be it. There's too many teams trying to tank in this league. And so you take the ones who are, I mean, I guess you have to take the play-in stuff out of it, but 15 in each conference. So you take the teams that are like 12th and 13th in each conference, and they're duking it out for the top 4 picks. 5th goes to the NBA Cup winner, and 6th and 7th goes to the 2 worst teams. Something like that. Obviously, it would change year to year because sometimes the NBA
Commissioner
Cup winner
Cam.
might be. Look, I just don't want to reward tanking as much as we do.
Yeah.
And it's actually getting just as bad in the NFL. If you look at the
I was going to
draft
say,
order,
Cowboys
my
fan
God.
here, hoping we tank.
Like, okay, do you know the draft orders? The Cowboys have 3 wins.
I think the Cowboys are still like
They're picking like 8th
or
something.
9th. Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. There's 10 teams with 2 or 3 wins.
Yeah.
And
The bottom of the NFL is bad this season.
And that's not a coincidence
Right.
because we've been seeing it in the NBA the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Because half the league is not trying to win. And that does water down the product. Someone was bitching about the NFL the other day. I don't know who it was. It was just someone on Twitter who has some sort of gambling presence. And was like, man, I watched the early slate up till Sunday Night Football, and there was just nothing. There was no good games. And even that 4:00 East Coast with Cowboys, Eagles, and Jets, Cardinals, they were 2 just complete blowouts. And like that's happening every week. The NFL, for some time slots, is not the appointment watching, listening that it used to be. It used to be absolute appointment television from 1:00 Central Time, 1:00 Eastern Time through 11:00 Eastern Time. And it's just not that anymore. Of course, there are still good games here and there. And they're like, I'm guessing Buffalo, Kansas City will still draw an astronomical number on Sunday and hopefully be a pretty damn good game. But it's not just the Thursday night games that are disappointing me anymore. The early slate on Sundays, those games stink because half the teams are trying to tank. It's just like the NBA in that everyone talks about, the NBA isn't good till the playoffs. That's because half the teams in the league are trying to not get there. And, is it smart? I guess, because for some of these teams, it really works. They punt the season and they get a top 5, top 10 pick, and then they're competing again in a couple years. That's the case with some of these. But some of these, they're in this perpetual cycle. The Washington Wizards, a perpetual cycle of suck and not trying. The Charlotte Hornets, they're not trying to win games. We talked about it with Pete last week. The Sixers, for years, they just weren't trying to win. So can something like the NBA Cup be effing useful and help a team out or help the integrity of the game a little bit? And maybe you do get the Wizards and the Hornets playing in an NBA Cup final. But when something's on the line like that, hey, one of these guys is going to be picking in the top 5. The other might be relegated to 7th or 8th, which could be a big-time difference for their rebuild. That's something to watch. Or you take a better scenario of a team like the Hornets playing against a team like, I don't know, the Lakers or the Heat, who are big-time brands, not championship contenders, and they can get a top 5 pick. And here's this team that's always trying to lose, suddenly trying to win, playing against them so that they can solidify a top 5 pick. I'm here for that. I'm really here for that. Or maybe it's a team like the Magic, who are up and coming, who are going to be a playoff team again this year, potentially a home court playoff team that have a lot of good young pieces. And they're like, we could really, really accelerate our rebuild if we win this phony little NBA Cup in Vegas. If we go out and we beat a team like the Celtics or the Nuggets or the Knicks or the Cavs, we're like, hey, we're knocking out a real championship contender, knowing that we can win these games when it matters to accelerate our rebuild. And then on the other side, if it is a team like the Celtics that's playing them, they're like, oh my God, we're a championship team. And if we win this phony little tournament, we'll get a top 5 pick in the draft. Let's make it interesting. Forget the cash. These guys have enough cash. And I know there are two-way guys, two-way contract guys on all these teams that could use a little bit of the cash. I know. But how about we make this really incentivized? And there is some of that with the FA Cup. There are teams that wouldn't normally qualify for European competition, but if they win the FA Cup, they're in. Couple that with the still mystique that is there, and you've got a competition worth playing that everyone wants to play. The other thing with the FA Cup is that you can play teams from lower divisions, which gives them this great chance. A few years ago, Tottenham Hotspur played Marine, which was a semi-professional team. And by luck of the draw of the FA Cup, they played each other and they played at Marine's home ground. It would be like if the LA Lakers were playing Baylor and they had to go down to Waco, Texas and play it. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but it would be pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool if they did. And there are simple solutions to making this NBA Cup just more entertaining for the fans and more incentivized for the players. Because what it is right now, like Scotty said, it's just nothing. It's just, oh, we won the NBA Cup. The Lakers raised a banner. It's like, catch me dead before a proud franchise like the Celtics raises a banner for winning something that was called the in-season tournament and the prestige that surrounds that. Like, if the Celtics won it, cool. That's great. But like, nobody is going to win this tournament and then win the NBA championship and be like, they won the double, first team ever to win the double. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody's going to look back after losing, disappointingly losing in the conference finals and being like, yeah, but we won the NBA Cup. And that's something to rally behind. That's something to add to Donovan Mitchell's Hall of Fame resume. No, like nobody cares. But if you do incentivize it a little bit, and maybe it is a case of like Cleveland could not get over the hump with the Celtics until they won the NBA Cup, was able to draft, this great European superstar that was a little too raw to take it number one, and that's sparked a dynasty, then that becomes, people start giving a shit then. This was supposed to be a Bruins segment, but I nixed it. This is more important to me. I already fixed the Major League Baseball schedule, and now I'm going to fix the tournament formerly known as the in-season tournament. This is how you do it. And I don't know, maybe throw some wacky rules in there. I know they kind of did it with like the point differential thing last year, and the Celtics needed to hack a Shaq and run up the score a little bit. But I don't know. Let's get some wacky shit in there. Let's get a 4-point line. If that's where you want to do it in there. I don't know. Let's do, Joe Mazzulla wanted the power play thing. 20 seconds where a team has to play 4-on-5. Let's do that. If you're going to test something out, let's do it in the NBA Cup, and let's really incentivize this thing. Cam Stewart fixes the NBA Cup. Just add it to my Hall of Fame resume. Anyway, I think that's all I've got today. The Celtics and the Hawks NBA Cup tonight. I'm cutting out of this a little early because we're recording an interview that will drop later this week that I have never been more excited for in my entire life. Scotty Swingler keeps us going today. Pete Souza is not here, but he will be on today. He will be here, just not here on this show. 1 o'clock Central Time on the Pete Souza Show on YouTube. You can catch us live here every weekday, high noon Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Central Time, talking Boston sports and whatever bullshit I run into in my everyday life. It's here live on YouTube and then wherever you get your podcasts. So we will see you tomorrow on The Cam Show.
You are here with your shoot first point guard, Corey Dickman.
Also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada yada.
Yeah, let's talk draft. That's the only thing we have to look forward to.
The only thing we have to look forward to.
That's what I will teach my son. You will teach your daughter as Blazers fans. It's like, look, the two most exciting times of the year for us are the draft lottery and the draft itself. Like, here we are. This is our thing. Give me some memories and thoughts. I know you had mentioned kind of the first time you had met Bill. What were some of those first memories that came back when you heard the news?
Coming up on the Pete Souza Show, Rogue Media and ESPN's own King McClure talks to us about the NBA draft.
The team is banged up.
Undressed while we're doing this?
No.
What is happening?
And it's partially because the team has pretty kind
Wrong
of big
podcast,
problems.
Nick. Wrong podcast. When you're a golfer, what is the point of no return? He was the best play-by-play announcer around, in my opinion, and he made me want to continue to watch.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is Stark.
We are Rogue Media Sports.